If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
At Tyson, we know taste is local. Some like their beef pit smoked, their chicken spiced all the way up, or their pork sweet and saucy. Local flavors, global impact. That's what feeding the world is all about.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Yeah, I love my HBCU, and boy, I love it, I love it, I love my HBCU, and man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah, I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. So we brought none other than Mr. Daryl Wade, Houston Astros Youth Academy Director, and has a heavy hand in the Cactus Jack HBCU Classic. We're gonna get him to talk a little bit more about this Classic and talk about these HBCU programs and why this is exciting and important. With that being said, welcome to episode 362 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, a show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports from our institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KSWH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer. That's multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency, a company that provides sporting and education consulting and data analytics. With that being said, welcome to the show, Mr. Daryl Wade. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
It's our pleasure. Again, this is Daryl Wade, Houston Astros Youth Academy Director. I've had many great opportunities to speak with him just about his love of the game, just in life in general, particularly, and it's happy to have him here. Let me break this down a little bit as we're using this as our news early part of the show when we break it down. You've heard about this, but we wanted to make sure you got a chance to really get in and talk about this. This is the Cactus Jack HBCU Classic. Is set to make its debut at Minute Maid Park on Friday, February the 17th through Sunday, February the 19th. The Classic will be first of its kind, held in Houston, Texas. Astros hosted by MLB Urban Invitation that exclusively features historical Black colleges and universities back in 2013. The inaugural 9-game tournament will feature Houston's area Prairie View A&M and Texas Southern University, and 4 schools from neighboring Louisiana and Mississippi. That will include Southern University, Grambling State University, Jackson State University, Mississippi State University. 2,500 fans each day will receive an exclusive Travis Scott bobblehead presented by Cactus Jack Foundation. I got to make sure I'm there early. I want me a bobblehead. So, what was the fruition of this tournament coming together?
Well, I guess it started around maybe about this time last year. My staff and I, Dwayne Stella, we go to spring training every year with the players and work with the manager and the coach. So we were having just a brief discussion with Dusty Baker about the possibility of having a HBCU tournament here in Houston. And of course, he said, "Yeah, y'all need to try to do that." We came back. We had a new boss. And we went to her before we could finish the conversation. She said, "Let's do it." We started off going to have small schools, like some of the small schools around Texas. We realized that Texas Southern being 2 minutes away from the stadium, 3 minutes away from the stadium, it didn't make a lot of sense not to include them. Then we said, well, Prairie View is local too, so we got them. Started thinking about them, and we realized, well, let's try to go all D1, and that's what we did. We reached out to those other 4 schools. They all jumped on board, signed contracts to be here. So we're really excited about this opportunity to put it on. We are, well, we know of, the only one that has had a complete HBCU roster, and especially playing in a major league ballpark. So we're excited about that opportunity. Dusty said it best right before the World Series that for the first time in many years, no African American would take the field in a World Series game. And not that this tournament is going to change that immediately, but I think it'll give our kids more of an opportunity to be seen on the national level. We have it broadcast nationally on Saturday, so all those teams will get to play on national TV, and then our local sports are going to carry it to the 5-state network. So all those schools will get those games back at their campus in their city.
Yeah, so excuse my rudeness. I should have made sure I said that they're away with the MLB champions, world champion, Houston Astros. Right. Make sure I put that out there as you talk about Dusty Baker and his support in actually saying, yeah, let's do that. I know that's usually a part of their training camp. Is he going to be able to be involved in any way, whether sending a message or something of that nature?
Dusty has never missed spring training, as he told me last week. But right now, there's a possibility that they're going to fly him back to at least meet with the team and players Thursday night, as we have a team reception here. If not, we're going to try our best to get Dana Brown to come down. But we're thinking that Dusty might be here. Reggie Jackson will definitely be there speaking to the kids. So we're excited about the opportunity we have for these kids to see, Dusty, hopefully, and for sure, the only Black general manager in Major League Baseball, and then, of course, Hall of Famer Reggie Jackson.
We're speaking with Darrell Wade, Houston Astros Youth Academy Director, and we're talking about Astros Foundation Cactus Jack HBCU Classics set from February 17th through the 19th, 2023. As you know, Minute Maid Park, home of the World Series champion Houston Astros. Charles, you want to ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, and we've seen classics with regards to football, even basketball, but the uniqueness of the classic in this baseball realm. I wanted to ask this question, especially with the Astros now with a Black GM. How important is it with regards to this classic in terms of connecting baseball with the African American community?
Well, we all know, baseball is probably the least attended by African Americans, probably, but we feel like we're going to try to make this event a homecoming type event, like an HBCU homecoming event. We know we have to get the community to come out and support it. We have a sponsor and we have a 3-year deal there, but that first year is going to make the second and third year. So we're hopeful that we can get enough energy around. We have reached out to schools, everyone, but we reached out to the Divine Nine of the Panhandle Council here in the Houston area, HBCUs in general, HBCU alumni chapters, the Houston area alumni chapters. So we're hopefully that these people will be the ones that will come out and support us and champion this event for us.
Yeah, you got some of the best programs in the SWAC in terms of that. And maybe that's a little bias on my part. But with that being said, when you talk about some of the events, obviously you have the 9 games, exciting Division I college baseball, high school student college fairs involved, a gospel breakfast, bobblehead giveaways each day. Ticket packages and suites are available for those that like to highlight. Vendor booths and company sponsorship opportunities are available as well for those that want to get their merchandise out to potential customers. Fun for the whole family. And so when you break it down, you have the Friday games that start at 11, last game capping off at 7 o'clock. But then Saturday is when you have the Astros Youth Academy College Fair, which starts at 10 o'clock. And then you have your game starting at 11, similar to Friday, with the nightcapper starting at 7 o'clock. On Sunday, and at 7 o'clock nightcapper, I'd be remiss if I can say that. First on Friday, that last game features Southern and Jackson State. Just 2 years ago, they had a classic championship game that featured Jackson State and Southern. In terms of that matchup, that is kind of a sore spot for Charles, so I won't visit it too much. But it was a great game, as you would say. On Saturday night, you have, as you said, the local teams fighting off, which is always a big rival with Prairie View and Texas Southern. We just saw it on the basketball court, a double overtime. So if baseball is anyway, you might get a couple of extra innings in that one. There's always a great contest between those teams over the years. And then on Sunday, you start at 9 with the Astros Foundation Gospel Breakfast. That should be fascinating and excellent to see. With that game featuring tonight, Texas Southern at 7 o'clock will face Southern, which has been a rival in itself. So big-time matchups all through the game. You have Mississippi Valley State, Jackson State matching up in terms of Mississippi, which is on Saturday morning, as well as having Grambling Prairie View matchups is always good. So fascinating to see that. 3 o'clock Southern, Grambling on Friday. On Saturday, I should say. So you have all the mixes for these big-time games, and for folks, they can see it there. Talk about some of these events that you are putting around this and why they're so important and unique.
Okay, I'm going to talk about those events, but I'd like to say, we saw the poll that came out a few weeks ago. Go ahead. We have 5 of the top 10 teams on the poll at our tournament. We're excited about that. Prairie View being
that's the Black College 9 poll rankings, right?
Correct. And so that's we didn't plan it that way, but we're glad to see it that way. But, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to make this a community type event. So we thought it was important that we were really, thinking about, getting fans out and getting everyone involved. So that's why we came up with all of these different events. The college fair is something that, we've been doing here at the Astros and that Foundation and the Academy for several years. And we've done it in November and January. So this year we decided we'd bring it into our tournament to try to make it there. We have over 80 schools already signed up to come. And it's not just the small schools. We have large schools all across the country coming. We have well over 400 students registered to come from high schools around the city of Houston. So we're excited about that as well. Saturday night, we're going to have the whole school birthday party here at the stadium in the Gallagher Club. It's actually our boss, Paula Harris's birthday that Friday. We're going to have a big bash for her. There's tickets for that, but all proceeds will go back to the Academy and the Foundation. So we're excited about that. As I said, we got to get people out here. On Sundays, we like to go to church. So we were hoping to still get people out if they'll come to our gospel breakfast. We'll have a comedian, national comedian, Marcus D. Wiley, who's a local guy, who's going to perform for our gospel breakfast, and we're excited about that. There are tickets available for that. But with that ticket, you get to all the games on Sunday. Ticket prices are $10 a day, and I don't think you can beat that anywhere right now for a college baseball game, especially 3.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. I'd be remiss if I didn't give you a chance to put out there anything that we didn't ask you at this time.
I think we covered it pretty good. But one thing that we are doing, and it's not something that we've kind of publicized, but we have reached out to all the universities with these athletes, not just baseball athletes. If they will send us their resume, we're going to put up a virtual book and send it to all of our corporate sponsors, as well as Major League Baseball, to try to help these young men and young women in these schools get an opportunity to get a high-paying job for these major corporations, and of course in Major League Baseball. Here, I'm getting a little older, but I tell everyone that I get to hire at the academy, I'll help you get in the door, but I want you to go down the hall. So hopefully, some of these young people will get to go and be another general manager someday. So those are the kind of things we're trying to do. This is, I hate to say we're not trying to make money, but we're trying to make an opportunity for all these kids, not just the players. Out of those teams, kids, how many will get drafted? Probably not that many, but all of them say they played a major league ballpark one day.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. As we let you go, we'd love to get you back on as we get closer to the event, maybe get some updates and see how things are going. We might even get a chance, if we can work together, maybe even to do a show and do a couple of interviews from dignitaries at the event. We'll see if that makes sense for you and if that will work for you. We love to do this. We think this is a great opportunity for HBCU Classics. When we get a chance maybe to bring you back on, we'll start talking about your connection with HBCUs and how you even got into baseball. But in this one, I wanted to make sure we got the information out on the 2023 Astros Foundation Cactus Jack HBCU Classic.
We appreciate that.
I want to say thank you.
We really appreciate the opportunity. And
it was our pleasure.
I need a copy of that HBCU photograph you had that behind you for my office.
Yeah. You like that? I'll see if I can make it happen. For somebody like you, you deserve it.
I'd love to be able to put that here in my office at Minute Maid Park. Would be great.
All right. That'll work. No doubt about it. Thank you, Mr. Wade. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry. Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more. But it's so absorbent, you can use less. So it's always worth it. Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Press the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're back with Charles Bishop and AD Drew. And we're going to get into the mid-major women's ranking. We're going to do a little different today. We're going to give you both in this segment, women's and men's mid-major. We'll start out with the women's, and we're going to get the gentlemen to say what they think about my top 5 on the mid-major level. You know, early this week, Mike went in, so I had to cut off his mic and send him on his way. We'll see if we bring him back. He came back a little dust up, and so I need to let him know who owns the mic around this place. We'll see if AD Drew can handle himself if he wants some of this. Dropping out this week is Florida Memorial Lions sitting at 14-5, 8-3. Receiving votes is Savannah State Tigers sitting at 14-6 and 10-5 with 10. The Miles Bears sit at 14-6, 10-5 at 9. Florida Memorial Lions sit at 14-5 at 8-3. Let's get in the top 5. As you see, one team jumped out, but at number 5, Lincoln, Pennsylvania, the Lions out of the CIAA are at 15-6, 9-2. They stay at number 5, but they're solidly in the poll at 31 points. At number 4, though, Fayetteville State Broncos out of the CIAA jump in the poll, 13-6, 9-2, 33 points, as they were not ranked last week, but they jump in at number 4. At number 3, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets sit at 16-3, 11-3, 43 points. They remain in the 3 spot, bringing us to number 2. The Russ Bearcats had a great week as they were off, but they still, with everybody else fluctuating, they were able to move up. They moved up 2 spots, 13-3, 7-0, undefeated at 54 points, chasing down number 1 out of the SIAC, the only SIAC team, but they're at the very top. Is Tuskegee Golden Tigers sitting at 17-3, 14-0, undefeated in SIAC play as of Monday. They have 6 points, 60 points as they continue to get it done. We're going to jump to the men's, and then I'm going to get your thoughts on either or both of these poll rankings. In terms of the men's, in week number 4, Claflin, as they drop out of the polls, receiving votes are none other than Claflin Panthers. They still at the top receiving votes, so they just dropped out. Basically number 6, if you would. 15-4, 7-4, 25 points. Tuskegee Golden Tigers are receiving votes at 16-6, 11-4. Miles Golden Bears sit at 16-5, 12-4. AD Drew talked about this last week, really about that rivalry, and it was a good one down there as Charles got to be a part of the play-by-play of that matchup, getting it done in so many days. It was in so many ways, I should say, as Mo Carter was also doing his thing as the commentator there. Winston-Salem State Rams, 15-5, 7-4, are outside looking into the top 5. So who are the top 5? We have a new one at number 5 this week, Philander Smith Panthers, 15-3, 5-7-2. 45 points. They were not in the top 5, but they find a way in as Claflin falls out. At number 4, you have Savannah State Tigers, 14-6, 12-4. They move up a spot from number 5 with 54 points as they're still rolling. At number 3, you have Virginia Union Panthers sit at 18-4, 18-2, playing some good basketball at the CIAA, 58 points. They move up a slot from number 4 last week, bringing us to number 2, Tougaloo Bulldogs. 19-1, 7-0 as they're undefeated. 3 first-place votes are looking solid. They caught up a little bit with Langston, but not enough to close the gap, 75 points, but still remain at number 2. Langston Lions continue to roll. First team, 20 victories in our men's poll rankings. That's Division I or Division II, NIA for that matter. They sit at 21 wins, just 1 loss, 15-1, 5 first-place votes, 78 points, and they are at number 1, getting it done. So you see Langston Lions remain number 1 in week number 4, as much as Tuskegee Golden Tigers do as well as the women. Let me go to you, Charles, first. Men's and women's, what do you think about the poll rankings, Charles?
I think you're on target with the women's poll rankings. Watch Tuskegee up close. They play some tremendous basketball. Curious, no mention for Winston-Salem State. They're right there on the heels of Fayetteville State, both 4-1 in conference play. I saw Fayetteville State was able to make it into the conference rankings. But I like where you're going. I like it this week. I definitely think Russ with a week off, they held position, if you will, and then Tuskegee playing some tremendous basketball. You take a look at them; they're 9-1 over the last 10. They won 8 in a row. You have very few teams playing as hot as they are right now. So shout out to both men's and women's programs at Tuskegee. I saw the men's get some love in there on the men's side as well. So good poll this week.
Charles, while I got a little time here, I want to ask you, how was your experience down there? You know, you're in Miles, Birmingham.
Oh, man.
You had the rivalry game. And so we don't always get a chance to talk in this depth. Obviously, we are embedded in the SWAC territory, so we get to feel the vibe. You know, this week we just had Prairie View and Texas Southern. And the men's side went to double overtime, and the women's game was pretty close for a while as Prairie View kind of stretched out late. But you saw the atmosphere here. Talk about the atmosphere, if you would, in regards to Miles Tuskegee. And I'll ask the same for Drew as well.
It was electric, Dr. Cavil. When you talk about two rival teams and with the crowd sitting down on top of you, anytime a ball rolled out of bounds, student section was going to pop up and be in somebody's face. And that's how close you are on the action. And it was a rivalry in every sense of the word. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen that amount of vitriol that was going on in the game, after the game. You know, so much so to the point where Miles' coach, I mean, he really had to literally just decompress for about a good 45 minutes after the game. Just sat there, just staring off into space. I was like, okay, this is what a rivalry is supposed to look like. So I enjoyed it very much. I take my hat off to Miles for the hospitality down there. Great atmosphere with Miles and Tuskegee.
Man, I'm glad you got the experience. I'm glad you shared it with us. Before I get you in the poll ranking, 80, Drew, talk about your experiences. You know, Charles gets to see it as a visitor. You know, a commentator doing the color did an excellent job, I must say. I'll make sure you don't tell him I said that. Oh, I forgot he's right here. I was listening at it during the Prairie View stuff. So, and everybody around, I told them that you were doing your thing. But, Eddie, Drew, if you would, talk a little bit about this rivalry, because everybody really thinks their rivalry is the best. Rightfully so, it's their rivalry. But we get a chance to expose it from a different perspective. And you being an alum, you've been in there and coaching. Talk about how intense this Miles College Tuskegee University rivalry is. Both men's and women's, really any sport, I should say.
Yeah, you know, I've been on all sides of this rivalry. I've been there as a coach. I've been there as just a fan, and then I've also been a part of this rivalry as a member of the media. So I have seen all sides of this rivalry. I mentioned this to Charles. You know, when I was coaching at Tuskegee, we never played in Knox Wyndham Gymnasium where that game was at. So honestly, that was the first time that I actually experienced that rivalry on the campus of Miles College. I have been to games in that facility, but it was never our game. It was never a Tuskegee game because that game always got moved to a larger venue because of the crowd. Dr. Cavil, that was a fire marshal game.
Yes.
If there was one other body in that building, the fire marshal would have been there and said, "Put the ball down, everybody go home." That type of people were outside. We found out people were outside watching Charles and Bo call the game on their phones, waiting on. You ever been to the club and the club is so packed and you just gotta wait on somebody to go to their car so you can come in and take their spot? That's what that was.
Like, hey, all right, we got 2 spaces, 2 up.
Yeah, 2. I got 2. I got room for 2. Yeah, that's exactly what that was. And
I love it.
Also described as this. Miles Gym is a classic CIAA gym in Alabama. So if you've ever been to them old style CIAA gym before a few people started rebuilding, or even some of the older gyms in the SWAC and everything, that is what that is. That is a classic gym. Everybody's about 2 feet from the baseline to the wall, about 3-4 feet from the. There's literally about 3 feet behind the benches at the first row of the bleachers. So it was all that. We had a Tuskegee player got teed up when he went to save the ball, threw the ball in, wound up about the third row, and next thing you know, there was conversations going between that. They had to come and the security had to come put a wall up between the student section and the players to get it going. And when he came back down the court and made a play, coming back down a couple of possessions later, he turned around and said something to the student section, and the referee teed him up for talking to the fan. That's what you call a rival.
That's right. That's right.
That's a rival. But getting on these polls.
Tell us what you think about the poll rank.
Getting on these polls, I'm not gonna be too long-winded on these polls because honestly, Doc, we are really splitting hairs on this men's and this women polls. There are so many good teams, not only in your top five, but in your receiving votes. So just for conversation, I'm going to really try to split some hairs here. What did Florida Memorial do to drop all the way out, Dr. Cavil? I might consider leaving.
Just one loss.
Exactly.
Just one
loss.
Like that.
Yeah, I might have left Florida Memorial in there. Fayetteville, Lincoln, Florida Memorial. It's really just reaching to the hat, and which name you pull out, that's the one that gets left out. With those three right there, no 4, 5, 6. On the men's side, it's kind of hard for me, and I'm being an SIAC homer on this one right now, Dr. Cavil. It's kind of hard for me not to have Tuskegee in there in the top 5, and possibly Miles sitting right there behind him. You can't put Miles ahead.
Miles is a good team
because Tuskegee has a sweep. Miles does the one thing that will win them that tournament. They play defense. They play defense and great
hard-nosed defense.
Yeah, Tuskegee plays good defense.
Who do you bump out? Philander Smith? You bump out Philander Smith?
I would actually take Philander and Savannah out and put both those in with Tuskegee at 4, at Miles at 5. No disrespect to Philander Smith and Savannah.
In the East right now.
I really do think
SIAC expert. Yeah. So I'll take that.
I really do think the West is stronger. Nobody's gonna want to play either one of those two teams in the tournament. You do not want to be that team from the East that has to face them in the tournament, because there's a real serious path those two may meet in the finals. I'm just being real. Those are probably the top 2 teams in the conference right now. No disrespect to Savannah State, but Savannah State hasn't been challenged on the East side like those 2 teams have been challenged on the West.
I like it. I appreciate it. We'll take this quick break, but AD just gave you a lesson in regards to old school, why they call them the cages. Remember, if you go back to your old newspapers and talk about the Black Five, they used to call them the cages.
Yeah.
They played in these bandboxes that almost felt like a cage. And literally sometimes they did have cages to protect the fans. And so interesting. Seems like if you go back to the Miles College, if they have to play in that facility, you might need to put up the cages again. Not
UFC.
Anything bad. Just need insurance to protect folks. That's how it is. But great event, great stuff, great breakdown for both y'all. Stick with us. We'll be right back on the other side. We're gonna bring you a little early football. Yes, yesterday was signing day. We're gonna bring in the gurus, X's and O's. You know them as BJ Jones and Joshua Sims Seniors. We'll bring them back on the other side with these gentlemen, and we'll talk a little bit about the signing and see what it looks like. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
The new GMC Sierra with hands-free driving offers the most advanced and luxurious pickup in its class. Yeah, it rocks.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
The analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have X's and O's. You know them better as BJ Jones and Joshua Sims Sr., bringing you some new framework, a new way to see it. So I'm excited about this project, X's and O's. And I certainly wanted to give y'all a chance to jump on here and talk a little bit about, with all of us, and Charles, to see what he has to say about signing day. It was a big day for a lot of HBCUs, and I know you kind of open things up on HBCU Nightly. For those who don't know, you can follow BJ Jones and Joshua Sims Seniors on Twitter. They do Twitter Spaces. BJ Jones will do his Twitter Spaces on Tuesday when he does it. And Joshua Sims Senior does it on Wednesday, HBCU Nightly. They'll spread it out when there are big comments and times to open it up, so you might be able to catch them other days of the week, but primarily you certainly can catch them in. And if you just follow these gentlemen, you'll certainly know when they're going to go live with the rest of their team. Oftentimes I'm in there providing some information here and there, but I try to stay out of the way because these brothers are good at what they do. With that being said, yesterday, as I continue to say, it was a big day for a lot of institutions, or at least excitement for a lot of folks. And it's good when you get African-American Black people excited. We get a chance to smile because oftentimes we're dealing with other things in this world that doesn't allow us to smile as much as I think we should. So most folks were smiling. I guess there's probably a couple out there maybe frowning about their coaches and what they did or didn't do. But we'll get on that in terms of what that looks like. Let me start with you, Joshua. First, give some people that hadn't heard from this perspective. We kind of teased it out a little bit. Tell us, what is X's and O's and what it's going to be about?
Yeah, Doc, man, X's and O's is the brainchild of my brother BJ Jones and myself, man. We kind of teased it out. We've been teasing it out now for a few weeks, man. All kind of brought to fruition by the good Dr. Cavil. And literally, man, this is an opportunity and a take for both guys who both played in college. BJ Jones at Southern University, North Carolina Central University for myself. Both played the game, both coached the game. We actually played on two different sides of the ball. I played on the offense, which is normally the X's, and BJ played on the defensive side, which is mostly the O's, man. And, it gives us an opportunity, or you can go vice versa. It doesn't really matter, but it gives an opportunity for us to be able to really take the level of expertise that we have by both playing the game, coaching the game, and now being on the media side, being able to be analysts, to be able to give a different layer of perspective, a different layer of insight, different mindset, and really kind of a much more deeply analytical component to the game of football, man. And so me and my brother, man, we complement each other really well, man. We complement each other like Kool-Aid and good sugar. Honestly, man, it's a good compliment, you know what I mean? And so you guys will get a chance to see both of us together in X's and O's. And this is something we rolling with, man. This is something from now on, I'm myself as well as BJ, we're conscious about the fact that, like, when they get one, they get the other. You don't get peanut butter without the jelly. You get the jelly with the peanut butter. You put it together. It's a phenomenal football-based perspective conversation and sandwich, man. So we're excited, man, Doc. We really are excited, man. We're excited to bring this to the world, man, so they can hear us and see our perspective.
I like that. BJ Jones, share your perspective of what they can get with X's and O's.
I mean, the biggest thing is, man, looking at the game through the eyes and the lens of what a coaching staff would. I am guilty of still watching games that way, where I'm looking at alignments and realignments and who's adjusting where, and hey, that quarterback, if he looks one way, he's going to throw that way. Almost just looking at it from a defensive coordinator position. Hey, what do they look like? From guard to guard. What are the tackles like? Are there some mismatches there? Could I blitz here and exploit this? That's why when you see me at games, I'm usually in the end zone because that's the view that I want, and that's the view that I break the game down from. So, taking this game that we all know and love, and just bringing a different element that a lot of people really don't, never really thought about or never had it broken down, but just breaking down the game and making it simple. And I couldn't ask for a better partner in crime than Josh. Josh, playing on the offensive side of the ball on the collegiate level, he has a lot of knowledge. Like, I've seen offensive playbooks in college. Glad I played on the defensive side of the football, but we're going to have fun with it. And people are really enjoying it already with the things that we've done already.
Yeah, I will say that for sure. There's a little picture there. In the picture in the middle, you have Erica, Howard grad, that is going to kind of shepherd and see if they can keep these young men on the straight and narrow, which will be certainly hard to do that. But one thing in this matchup that's always fascinating to me is BJ Jones. I always know that you like to watch the game from the field. Same with Joshua. And now I get to see that because I'm always up in the booth and I like to sit back because I'm analyzing all this stuff as I do my writing and journalistic. And Charles always told me about it. It's a different perspective on the field. And obviously with what he's able to do with the pregame show, he always told me, he said, man, Cavil, it's different now. You want to get down on this field. So I'm going to go to you, Charles, to maybe give a little word of advice as you'd have to deal with me co-host the show. All right. And you've grown, far exceeded any of my expectations in regards to our partnership and doing your own thing with Neely with the pregame show. I'm so excited and proud of how you took that and ran with it. And that's my same expectation for these guys. We brought them into the show, did Sunday thing. Now, don't disappear. I know how y'all get so famous, then you ain't got time for me. Don't do that. I need y'all ears. But with that being said, anything other than that, Charles, give them some words of wisdom, if you would, in regards to expectation. I know they've been in it, but we always can share in terms of how we learn and grow.
I think they're going to enjoy the experience. They both are very passionate about football with regards to the respective sides of the ball, and I've grown to enjoy listening to both of them break down games. One of the big things that I had an opportunity to experience being at the field level was just hearing the conversations that are happening on the sidelines in regards to what is happening and what the coaches are seeing. So to bring out that perspective, if you can dive off into that, that's always, I think, a fascinating part that I don't think fans really get an opportunity to experience, is just the way coaches are seeing things and the way they adjust on the fly. So anytime you bring that stuff to the forefront, I'm sure you guys will do a tremendous job with it. I'm looking forward to listening to the show and really, gaining a better football knowledge. We can always learn even more. I think I know a little something, but when I hear guys who play at that collegiate level, it always takes it to a different level. So I really appreciate what you guys are going to bring to the forefront.
Much love, Chuck. Much love.
Appreciate that, Charles.
Oh, certainly. Joshua, let me ask this before we get in this top signing day and who y'all see as the top programs and pick on. We'll do that in the next segment before we get out of here. I know there was, both of y'all chimed in this, BJ Jones, which is fascinating. There was the ESPN NFL live that they do where you had the players going in and talking about these X's and O's. And man, it drew a lot of attention for a lot of folks because people don't always get to see that. And you talked about this is where we're going, where you really get to get into X's and O's and strip the folks that want to have a little more than folks just being able to talk some chatter about football, how they feel, what they see. Maybe take them in, as Charles just alluded to, those conversations on the sideline, how much coaches are actually making adjustments when fans may not think they are, because it's not happening as fast, but they forget that you're dealing with young men that do not do this professionally and get all day to perfect their craft. That that they got to do other things, and they're trying oftentimes really hard. And you're talking about the mix between talented players, because to me, if you're playing on the college level, you're talented. And I don't think people understand that. Between talented players, very talented players that happen to be maybe 4 or 5 stars or have grown to 4 or 5 stars, and then the elite players, when we talk about those that make the NFL, because they the top of the top. And we ain't even talking about the all-star, all-pro. We just talking about this level, and I think people forget that. But give us a little indication of what they look like, Josh.
Yeah, man. I mean, the difference and the variance in each level, man. I was a really good high school football player, right? Got to college and now I'm on a team with a whole bunch of guys who are really good high school football players. And then, you come into a room on that perspective, and then you get guys who are all conference, they all American, and they really, really set themselves apart, and they're really, really, really talented, right? And then some of those guys, you get the opportunity to watch them, and they go to the next level. And they end up going to the NFL, and those guys are exactly as you call it. You talk about the elite of the best, the best of the best are the guys who get that opportunity. And the same thing happens at HBCUs. For HBCUs, those guys, you look at a guy like James Houston this year, who came from Jackson State, who had an opportunity to get into a rhythm later on in the season. The expectation was that he was able to get into a rhythm from the moment he stepped on the field. He stepped into that rhythm and finished the season really well. I'm already started looking and analyzing who are the guys who are going to be able to do that as well this season coming up. You even take another guy like a Jacoby Durant, goes to the LA Rams. They don't have a great season, but he has a standout season as a rookie, as a DB. He played a lot in the nickel, played a lot at the dime, and the Rams are known for giving a lot of different defensive looks. From an offensive perspective, what I kind of always see, and what we're always going to do, because I know you use the example of what I posted on with the NFL Live guys, is I'm always still looking at the game from a coach's perspective. Very, very so. My brother BJ Jones said, man, I tend to not like to spend all of the game on the field. I want to spend half of the game on the field, half of the game up in the box, so close as high as I possibly can see. Because as an offensive coordinator, my ability to make adjustments and changes from what I see from a bird's eye view is very much more impactful than for defensive coordinators. They got to be in the thick of it, making adjustments and making changes from what they see. They're going to be able to feel the momentum shifting of a game. It's much more different for an offensive coordinator than it is a defensive coordinator. So, I was a really good high school football player, man, all conference, all region. I was the man in high school, got to college, got in a room full of guys like Giovanni Irvine and Corey Harris, all of these guys who was all conference, all conference already by the time I stepped on foot on 1801 Fairwood Street, and I just had to wait my time, man. I found my way through special teams, dog. I ain't even, you know what I'm saying? I ain't getting no passes thrown.
That's real talk. It's grown men out there. When you're a freshman, you find a real player, it's grown men. Hey, pull up that picture in terms of the FCS top 10 list. We're going to get on the other side and talk a little bit about that. Then there was the early recruiting class, and we'll get a chance to talk even more about that. So if you can, before we go to this break, Drew, pull up that picture of the FCS top 10 list that shows, I think, Jackson State tied at number 1. It has FAMU at number 3 and has Alabama A&M tied at 5. And that's your top 10. Those are your 3 HBCUs in the top 10. So we'll talk a little bit about recruiting class and why has it changed to make a difference, and how some teams may get rated high in a recruiting class and others not. But it's all a game there. So we'll get on the other side. We'll be right back and talk a little bit more about this recruiting class and see what the difference is. Stay with us after this break.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
We'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
They're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplified Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplified Development Services.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Neal with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike is on assignment. And we have those of X's and O's, at least two of the three of the crew here, which is BJ Jones and Joshua Sims Sr., as you know more about them. With that being said, Charles, I know you wanted to add something as I teased out the top. We'll get in the end. What were you saying there?
Yeah, well, I was really excited about National Recruiting Day, but the thing that really intrigued me was everybody putting their schedules out. And once I started looking at the schedule, especially on one particular team, it took a lot of excitement away from it because I saw the first 4 games essentially were road games, especially looking at the #1 recruiting class of Jackson State. But the first 4 games literally was South Carolina State, FAMU, Southern. Then you get an FBS team. I was like, wait a second, what is this? So, you guys break this thing down for me with regards to taking a look at National Signing Day. But when you start kind of extrapolating stuff and looking at the schedules, my heart got to beating fast real quick. So help me out, man.
Oh, that was real talk. As you doing that, I'm going to start with you, Joshua Sims, in terms of breaking it down. One thing that I noticed with this recruiting class is, you had the early signing period. And in the early signing period, you had actually Alcorn at number 3. You didn't even have Alabama A&M in the top 10. And so, at least according to this index, which was done by early signing day per 247 Sports, opposed to Light on College. So people can have a little difference, but you don't think that missed disparity. But obviously they use the 3 and 4 stars, so you get a little bit about that. And so that's the one that ranked all HBCUs, where you see Alcorn at 3, and you don't even have Alabama A&M in there. You have North Carolina Central, obviously, at number 8 in terms of where they were ranked early signing period. It doesn't include the new one. Prairie View sneaks in the 10. I know some folks at Prairie were kind of disappointed after what they saw, but then I had Luke come back and said, no, that's actually pretty good. So you have different folks, different thoughts. Let me start with you in terms of the recruiting class. Did you agree with what you've seen out there with the rankings, and why and why not?
You know what, Doc? I do agree. I agree. And everybody who kind of knows my approach to this, I'm fairly even keel on this. I agree from 2 fronts. One, I think there are some programs that yesterday we kind of knew going into yesterday was going to make some headways. We already knew Jackson State and FAMU were tearing up the recruiting trail. Alabama A&M, quiet as kept. Last night on HBCU Nightly, me and BJ had them on. We had Mo Carter from right down there in Alabama A&M country, and he told us this recruiting class is better than most people are giving credit for. So, and I went and looked, and he was absolutely right. Now, give him. It wasn't, but so far they was going to be able to go from the year previous, from a recruiting class they hit the year prior. But they definitely made strides. Shout out to Coach Connell Maynard on the strides that he made there. Here's what I will say about the lack of MEAC teams that's in that top 10. You generally are going to have MEAC programs not really make huge waves on the recruiting trail. It's just what it is. Howard yesterday had a great day. I have no idea, man. I think that it boils down to a lot of the names and just the amount of attention that's garnered through social media and through media in general on the MEAC programs versus the SWAC programs from a recruiting standpoint. We will see how competitive Howard's going to be. They made some big-time moves on the offensive side. Didn't make no moves on the defensive side. Morgan State plugged and played in some spots. They felt like they finally had a full recruiting season this offseason. We'll see how that ends up affecting their game. And then if you look down at 1801 Fayetteville Street, we made a couple moves, but nothing too loud, man. And that's just the truth. North Carolina Central just didn't make a lot of loud moves. South Carolina State, for me, in my opinion, won the day for the MEAC yesterday, quietly. And if anybody get a chance, go look at that class that South Carolina State signed yesterday, and you'll see exactly why. They have a replacement for Shaq down there that they signed yesterday. They have a replacement in spots that they know that they're always going to be good. And I'm hearing rumblings that their quarterback room is improved already. So South Carolina State won the day for me yesterday in the MEAC. Quiet as kept.
BJ Jones, same question for you, but I obviously look at it from a SWAC perspective. Did you agree with the rankings? Did you have something off there? What are your thoughts in terms of what took place yesterday, not just with the rankings, but overall?
No, I agree with the rankings. I knew that TC Taylor and Jackson State, they had a big task in front of them. Lost a nice little portion of their roster, but they did a great job of replacing those guys, man. I'm excited about a few players that Jackson State was able to go and get. And then FAMU, they lit it up. And I think that this is the year that a lot of the orange and green faithful, they're looking at this year as probably, if not now, then when, if ever. Because, I mean, they have that type of talent down there. A team that I think people are sleeping on from a recruiting standpoint is Homecoming. I like what they did in the early signing period. I like the way that they closed late. Alabama A&M sneaky, has a sneaky good class. And I will say the same thing about Alabama State as well. They came along late, but if you look at some of the guys they brought in guys that are close to competing for jobs day one on campus, and that's huge.
Charles, you want to jump in and ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, actually, Alabama State is the one that I'm real curious about, because I thought when you take a look, especially at the SWAC East, that they're coming. They're right there. I saw with that defense last year with the big corners and the physicality. I saw what they're trying to do down there. So I was really curious in terms of what Alabama State was able to do yesterday, BJ.
Man, they hit it hard on the defensive side. You saw them really show up on the defensive line. They hit the receiver side hard. Remember, they lost Jeremiah Hicks, and he's now in New Mexico. Their best receiver, the kid that wore 80, he was, I think, just a freshman or sophomore last year. You did see them bring in the junior college quarterback. They lose Miles Crawley to Grambling, but then they bring in a junior college quarterback that has an arm and that can sling it around the yard a little bit. And they addressed the running back role. Santo Dunn did a lot for them a year ago. I think that he was a one-year guy, grad transfer. So they go in and they refresh that. So if they can get that quarterback position figured out, Alabama State's a dangerous football team.
Let me follow that up and ask this MEAC question, Josh. Norfolk State wholesale changes yesterday with regards to what they brought in. Who is that team that could actually challenge North Carolina Central in the MEAC?
Yeah, man. To your point about Norfolk State, before I get to who I believe can challenge North Carolina Central, Norfolk State signs 38 guys yesterday, and from what I'm hearing, they're not done. I'm hearing that they're looking to sign even more kids between now and that the next transfer portal period. Norfolk State is going to look like a completely different team this year Dawson Oldham is going to have the task of trying to put together this roster, even during the spring with the guys he's got that's early enrolled, that just to get some sort of camaraderie and motion moving. I still believe they're about 2 or 3 years away from being able to compete. But I think that when you see a move like this, it's intentional. Very similar, if I have to say so myself, to what Connell Maynard did last year. You bring in a whole essentially brand new class of guys last year, what Connell Maynard did. And then in his second recruiting class in his first recruiting class post that, he puts together a top 10 recruiting class. And so the same thing is going to be expected of Dawson Oldham's. This recruiting class is not going to be the recruiting class that's going to compete. But to your question about who's the team that I believe that can compete with North Carolina Central for the MEAC, it's 2 teams. The first is Howard. And I know, brother, Big Mike ain't on here. He can't say it. I'm going to say it for him. Howard? Yeah, Howard. They already had last year, and I want everybody to keep in mind this, they already had a very young offensive line last year of some really big and talented guys that can move. They found their way around being able to create space and get hands on guys, and it was really insightful to see. Now, their defensive side of the ball is their defensive side of the ball, and I'm not quite sure why they didn't go and recruit hard on the defensive side of the ball, because for me, I felt like that was the biggest question mark. You got Q Williams coming back next year. He's going to have another spring to develop. You got a much better offensive line, much better targets on the outside, and a really good running back room. I'm not understanding why they didn't go get guys on the defensive side. But the second team is a team that everybody knows. They're the big bad wolf. They're the boogeyman of the conference. And they're the team that we just haven't found a way to beat. South Carolina State. And I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say it once we get to the spring. I'm going to say it in the summer. And as we get to the season, if North Carolina Central wants to cement themselves as the top dog in the conference next year, going into MEAC play, they're going to have to beat South Carolina State October the 25th. They've got South Carolina State second on their MEAC schedule, circled, and they're coming to Durham. And they're going to have a much improved defense, even though they lost a couple guys. I think that defense is going to be better than it was last year. Now, the biggest question for any of these other programs is, what are they going to do in the quarterback room? Who's got an improved quarterback room? And if Corey Fields is not the guy, or whoever it is that's in that quarterback room down there in South Carolina State, if they're not the person, they're going to find out fairly quick with their schedule too, Chuck, as you talked about y'all. Their schedule is going to put some people in some hot fire early and often, and then you got to try to come up to Durham and try to knock off the dogs.
Doc, let me follow up with this real quick question, and it revolves around the regionality of recruiting. And I wanted to ask this question. BJ, you know this well. Guys grew up in the South, essentially want to play in the SEC conference. And I've often been curious about this. And you made mention of, recruiting in the MEAC. It is what it is. Maybe not as flashy or whatever the case might be. But is there a good wellspring of players who want to be at North Carolina Central, at South Carolina State, at Howard, at Norfolk State? Might not be, quote unquote, as flashy sometimes as being within the southern region in terms of guys wanting to play, at Power 5 schools. But I'm curious, do you get a better caliber player? Because we're starting to see it play out in the Celebration Bowl.
Absolutely, 100%. We have the benefit in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference of being the FBS conference that's right there with us is the ACC. Well, the ACC is not very good. They're not very good at football. And then, outside of Clemson and Florida State yesteryear, they're not very good at football. And so here in North Carolina, North Carolina Central has just as much of a chance. North Carolina A&T has just as much of a chance to go into a kid's living room and get a guy who has an offer from Wake Forest, Duke, NC State, Chapel Hill, as they have to be able to try to come and get us. Like, our coaches can go in those living rooms and do the same thing. And the same thing in Virginia. Norfolk State's coaches can go and get a guy who might have an offer from a UVA or Virginia Tech. Same thing in Maryland. Honestly, the truth is that we don't have to compete against what you guys have to compete against in the SWAC, and that's the Southeastern Conference. You think about Jackson is in Mississippi. Well, you got Ole Miss and you got Mississippi State. You're really genuinely having to compete against. Alabama State and Alabama A&M are in the state of Alabama. We know who's there in the SEC. And same thing, so on and so forth. And then it's going to get really interesting for Prairie View and Texas Southern, who I believe have been able to get some really good guys when Texas comes to the SEC. Then we'll see how that kind of shapes and folds from a recruiting standpoint. I still think Prairie View and Texas Southern will still be able to get the type of caliber players they want, but it's going to be relatively different and in a way that they haven't had to see or face in a very, very long time. Because let's be honest, Texas just hasn't been very good since Vince Young left out the building. So, honestly, it's just different here in North Carolina, and it doesn't make it any easier that we're a basketball state. So,
well, you heard it right here first. That is the kind of talk you can get used to of really getting into the X's and O's from B.J. Jones and Joshua Simpson Sr. and Erica, for that matter, trying to deal with these young gentlemen in regards to keeping them on the path to make sure they give it. But I'm excited about X's and O's as it is coming, folks. Or I should say it is here, because you just heard it today. You've seen it as we kind of teased it out. But make sure you follow these guys in terms of where you can get it. You can actually hit X's and O's on Twitter and follow them directly on their Twitter handle. I told you about the HBCU lives that you can see with B.J. Jones and Joshua Sims Sr. Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So follow them, like them, keep up with them, because you're going to get some great HBCU news and analysis that you can't quite get anywhere else. With that being said, I want to say thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the news. I want to thank our special guest as we got Daryl Wade from the Astros, the championship Astros, B.J. Jones. I know you got to celebrate last year, but we got it done this year, so we'll smile with you a little bit. I had to throw one dig. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter. That's DrKenyattacavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. DrKenyattacavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Facebook and Instagram is YouTube Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you download my JBN, my BCSN, if you want to continue to get this great content, as you can see throughout the week. Tuesday and Thursday from inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike, Charles, and myself. You also obviously get ONG Strike Zone on Wednesday. You get Saturday with Carlos Brown, and then on Sunday nights you get none other than Brian and AD with the sports wraps. Continue to check us out. We do the games for you in all the groove of HBCU sports. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon, Charles.
Of course.
Joshua.
Legend.
BJ.
Dismissed.
Appreciate y'all guys. Much love. ONG Strike Zone.